I'm going to call to order November 14th, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight we have two public hearings. The first one is fire hydrant saldo amendment, public hearing and public meeting. And I am going to make a motion that we open the hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Banish. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions? To vote to open the meeting?
Yes, you should.
Okay, we'll do, to open the meeting, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Okay, so our hearing is open for fire hydrant saldo amendment public hearing and public meeting, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Renero. This is a public hearing to consider an amendment to our saldo. Before we begin, I'd like to mark two exhibits. Township 1 is the proof of publication indicating that the notice of this hearing and of the ordinance amendment was published in the Times Herald on October 21st, 2022 and October 28th, 2022. And T2 would be a copy of the ordinance that is being considered this evening. And this is an ordinance of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, amending the Code of Ordinances at subsection 6A of section 515, water supply, of Article 5, design standards of Appendix C, subdivision and land development. Essentially what the council is being asked to consider this evening is to make an amendment to the ordinance to make it consistent with the law and consistent with the ordinance as we thought we originally adopted it many years ago. But apparently there was a transcription error and the ordinance was adopted in such a way that didn't really make any sense. So we're just going in and cleaning that up tonight.
Any questions from council? Any public questions on this matter? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we close the hearing.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Vicio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. At this time, I'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance of Plymouth Township. Is there a number on this ordinance?
It'll be numbered after it's.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Bramblett, second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Next, we have a public hearing and meeting for the Shopping Center District Text Amendment. And I'll ask, is there a motion to open this hearing?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council, from the audience? Seeing none, to open this hearing, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor, and I will turn this over to Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Renero. We are here tonight for council to consider a text amendment. This is the public hearing that is required to consider the text amendment. Before we begin, I'd like to mark two exhibits. Township 1 is the proof of advertising to indicate that the ordinance was advertised in the Times Herald on October 21st, 2022, and again on October 28th, 2022. We will mark as Township 2 a copy of the ordinance. And this is an ordinance of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, pursuant to Article 6 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, amending the Plymouth Township Code Appendix B zoning ordinance to amend Article 2, Section 200 by adding a new definition for high-rise apartment house and amending Article 11, Section 1100 of the zoning ordinance to permit high-rise and mid-rise apartment use in the shopping center district by conditional use. The applicant is represented this evening by Robert Gunlock Esquire. Mr. Gunlock, do you have any exhibits that you wish to mark as exhibits? Or any documents you wish to mark as exhibits?
Yes, I do. Rob Gunlock, attorney for the applicant, Plymouth Meeting KPG, Roman numeral 3 LLC, care of Keystone Property Group. Here with me on behalf of Keystone is Richard Gottlieb. I have handed up to the board a package of exhibits marked A1 through A11. I'll briefly identify those for the record. A1 is an aerial map for reference of the surrounding area. A2 is a photograph of the existing building located at the subject property owned by Keystone at 502 West Germantown Pike. 3 is the ordinance amendment, which has already and also been marked as T2. A4 is the overall mall site plan and a blow-up of our portion of the mall property. A5 is a stormwater letter from Bowler confirming the ability to implement certain stormwater improvements as part of the land development process. A6 is the Montgomery County Planning Commission review of the ordinance amendment dated October 27, 2022, wherein they recommend support for the proposed ordinance amendment. A7 is a report completed by the applicant's traffic engineer, traffic planning and design, dated July 21, 2021, as to traffic and parking information. A8 is a report completed by traffic planning and design concerning pedestrian and vehicle improvements that can be made to the area surrounding the Keystone building. That's dated October 11, 2021. A fiscal report completed by Babbitt and Associates, dated September 10, 2021, as amended in February and March for certain additional fiscal information that the township requested be provided as part of this petition. A10 is demographic analysis completed by Babbitt and Associates, specifically focusing on projected school-age children, which was requested by the township as well, dated April 23, 2022. And A11 is a sample building rendering that indicates a type of proposed improvements that could be completed if the project moved forward. By way of brief background, I identified the Keystone property as 502 West Germantown Pike. It doesn't front on West Germantown Pike. It fronts in the center of the Plymouth Meeting Mall. It essentially is the donut, the hole in the middle of the mall, where an existing office building has been located, and that building consists of approximately 174,000 square feet. You're going to hear from Mr. Gottlieb in a few minutes that this was purchased more than 10 years ago. Tenants eventually left, and for the last 5 years they've been attempting without success to relet it for office, and that has heightened since COVID with the increase in supply of office space. They have done a market analysis and determined that a residential conversion here, the use of the building for apartments, would be a good use, and it would be consistent with the mall and create a mixed-use type of community there, with residents living at the mall property, shopping at the mall property, and it would be a good synergism between the uses. So they are proposing to renovate and redevelop this existing building for up to 150 residential apartments. We proposed a text amendment that we're here tonight to discuss that would allow that conversion. In fact, it would allow the conversion of office buildings within the SC zoning district on properties that were 50 or more acres in size and subject to a number of other conditions. It would also require conditional use approval. So if this did proceed this evening The applicant would then go back, continue to work with township staff and the Township Planning Commission on plans for conditional use approval and for land development approval. And so the applicant is prepared to do that if, in fact, council elects to proceed with the adoption of this amendment. I've identified our exhibits. In addition to Rich Gottlieb here tonight, we have John Legennikoff. John is a professional engineer from Bowler and Associates, who's here to address any questions from the engineering standpoint. We have Eric Ostismuck from Traffic Planning and Design. Eric is here to address any traffic or parking-related questions. And David Babbitt from Babbitt and Associates, who completed the fiscal report, who is here to address that. I'm going to be brief, if I can, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to call Mr. Richard Gottlieb, and I would ask Mr. Gottlieb to give a summary about Keystone Development Group, information rich concerning the building, the changing of the market in recent years, and specifically your proposal now and your vision for the conversion of this existing office building to residential apartments.
Thanks. Thank you, Rob.
Would you like to-
Yeah, I would, yes.
State and spell your full name, please.
Richard Gottlieb, Gottlieb.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give you with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So why don't we just break it down real quick. Start with Keystone. What type of work does Keystone do?
So Keystone, we're a local real estate development company, mostly in the Philadelphia suburban and downtown markets, but also have properties up and down the East Coast. We were known as a redevelopment company, taking older buildings and upgrading them and repositioning them and leasing them into modern facilities.
Primarily office building, correct?
Primarily office, thank you. And we also we do ground-up development as well, mostly in the mixed-use category. We recently finished a mixed-use project in Conshohocken with the office and a hotel. We're doing these projects in other places too, and doing more multifamily because that's where there's growth in the marketplace today. Unfortunately, office, why I believe it's not going away, the desire and need for office has decreased somewhat over the last several years, especially given the pandemic. People are using their office differently, and there's not a growth going on, so no real need. We've owned this building since 2013, I believe. Operated it as an office building for a while. We were losing tenants, more because the quality of the building, it needs a major upgrade from all the systems and everything. The windows are obsolete and things like that. But it's very difficult to release it today as an empty office building and finance it and everything else where there is a demand for multifamily. We've also tried at one point to do senior living, and the demand for senior living just isn't there either.
So Rich, in your experience, would the redevelopment of this building for apartment buildings be an attractive use in the marketplace and based upon the surrounding uses of the mall property?
Extremely. We believe very strongly in that. Reason being, obviously, the location's great with the access and everything. That's always been that way. But in addition, you have the Whole Foods there, so you got a supermarket, you have a movie theater, you have multiple places to eat. And the idea in today's world is to get people to walk the places now more than drive everywhere.
And you understand if the board was to adopt this ordinance amendment, you still would require it to go through the conditional use process and land development approval by working with township staff and the Township Planning Commission?
Yes, we understand that.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Gottlieb, but he's available for questions.
And members of council, even though Mr. Gunlock did not call three of his witnesses who were present this evening, if you have any questions for them, they will be available to answer your questions. But Mr. Gottlieb is available right at this moment.
questions?
No, thank you.
That's all I have for Mr. Gottlieb. I wasn't going to call any of the other witnesses, Mr. Chairman, but I do want to reiterate their availability. Mr. Babbitt is here on a fiscal basis, but the report that's in your packet and was previously sent to council pretty much speaks for itself, that it will be a positive fiscal impact on the township, the school district, and the county. Also, John Alevnikoff is here just to literally answer any questions regarding the site itself from an engineering standpoint. But again, we'll be back in front of you if this moves forward for full land development approval, and at that time there'll be a site plan for you to review after certainly township staff and the Township Planning Commission does. And also Eric from Traffic Planning and Design is here. Again, these materials have been previously submitted. I didn't mean to spring them on you tonight, but some of them have been around for a couple of months, and they clearly show the traffic planning and design, the difference between the traffic and the parking requirements for an office building and an apartment building. And as you noted by the reports, it's significantly less for the apartment building than if it was fully leased out for an office building. And Eric is here as well. So these gentlemen are all here to answer any questions concerning the information that we've offered as exhibits.
And Mr. Chairman, members of council, as you're aware, this is not the first time that this project has been in front of you. There have been probably too many meetings to count between the applicant and their consultants and staff, including Ken Amy, the township's planner, who was an integral part of helping develop and modify the ordinance that was originally submitted by the applicant. And this has been going on, I guess, now for a couple of years, at least. So, and as we indicated, the applicant has had the chance to be in front of you on many occasions before. And all the information that's been presented tonight has been presented to all of you in one form or another over the last several months. So if there are no questions for the applicants, ask if there's any public comment.
Is there any public comment on the matter? Okay, seeing none. Any additional comment from council?
No, thank you.
Well, we close the hearing.
Is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Bramlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions? Do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramlett?
In favor?
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. The hearing is closed.